Hello, everybody. Welcome into Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. Today is Monday, October 21st. I hope everybody had a great weekend. I hope everybody tuned into an awesome sports weekend. We had a championship winner crowned. We had a championship series set up, a wild weekend with awesome games in the NFL, and another chaos-filled day on Saturday with college football. We will talk about all of that and more in just a second. But before we get into any of that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday, October 21st. But like I was saying, we are going to get into, of course, as always on Mondays, our winners and losers. We are going to start off in the NFL with our Week 7 winners and losers, and we're going to start off on the losers side this week. Our number 5 loser. 5 winners, 5 losers. Our number 5 loser are just quarterback injuries. There were a lot of quarterbacks hurt, whether it be Deshaun Watson out for the season. That one has some interesting implications. We saw the Browns and their fans react, positively to it. Then their players came out, Myles Garrett, everyone else defending him. I understand he's your teammate. He'd been called to be benched. He wasn't going to get benched. We'll see if this helps the Browns in the long run. You have guys like Jaden Daniels getting hurt. That is a week-to-week situation, but he is on a Rookie of the Year campaign, potential even MVP campaign, the way he's been playing. You don't want to lose him if you're Washington. You survived a game against the Panthers, destroyed the Panthers, but that's the Panthers. You can't expect that to happen week in and week out with Marcus Mariota. You also lose Aiden O'Connell. He's out for 4 to 6 weeks with a broken thumb. And of course, Tyler Huntley, although he was most likely going to lose his job anyway. Not a good week to be a quarterback. Lots of quarterbacks injured this week. Lots of starting quarterbacks injured. Our number 5 winner was just the slate. On paper, it was awesome, and it delivered. We had a battle between the Lions and the Vikings, a battle between the Texans and the Packers. Both of those came down to game-winning field goals. You saw the Chiefs and the 49ers, a Super Bowl rematch. This slate was just awesome. We all win for that one. That's our number 5 winner. Our number 4 loser of the week our number 4 loser of the week, and this is going to be a little bit of a stretch here. Ride with me on this one. It's the first-time head coaches. We have guys, all of these first-time head coaches really struggled, with the exception of Seahawks coach Mike Macdonald, who got a win over there in Atlanta over fellow first-time head coach Raheem Morris, right? Outside of Macdonald, every single one of them took a loss and didn't look the greatest. Obviously, we don't expect a lot out of Dave Canales and the Panthers, but he has his own quarterback situation to deal with Andy Dalton continuing to not play great football. Do we get the point where we throw Bryce Young back in there? I've heard some talks about that. I don't know if they're really going to do that, if that's actually a serious thing, but that's something to think about over there. Raheem Morris, after getting a lot of momentum, takes a brutal loss to the Seahawks at home. The defense has a lot of issues, and for a defensive coach, that's not the way that you want to look. Obviously, Gerard Mayo travels to London with Drake May and the Patriots, gets absolutely boat raced by the Jaguars. Not a good look for them either. He and Canales have a little bit of leeway. We kind of expect them to not look good. But guys like Raheem Morris taking a big loss. Callahan down in Tennessee, even after they make the change at quarterback due to injury. It's a whole nother situation over there with their quarterback situation. It's not a good look. And if you want to throw Antonio Pierce and Jeff Ulbrich in there, interim head coach last year with the Raiders, Antonio Pierce, now a first-year head coach, he's on the hot seat right now as a first-year head coach. He was a locker room hire, and that locker room started to fall apart. And of course, the Jets situation, we'll get to them later. But if you want to throw him in there, it just has not been a good week to be an inexperienced head coach. And we'll see if that trend continues. We have 2 first-year head coaches, although they have coached in the past before with the Chargers, Jim Harbaugh, and of course, just Jim Harbaugh there. But still. Our number 4 winner of the week are the Chiefs. They finally put together what seemed like their most complete game. Their defense has been balling out against a good San Francisco unit, a San Francisco unit that I think this game told us more about than the Chiefs. The Chiefs' offense with Kareem Hunt in there has been awesome. They've been funneling it through him. Patrick Mahomes has not looked good. He threw another couple of interceptions today, but he was able to get the ground game going. Once they get some wide receivers back healthy, Juju is out again, so the receiver room continues to get thinner and thinner and thinner. I expect them to make a trade before the deadline. That's coming up soon. Once they do that, if that run game can continue, Isaiah Pacheco comes back later on in this season. You still have Kareem Hunt, who's playing just great football right now. This is going to continue to be a tough team. And outside of just this week, we talked about it a little bit last week when we were previewing the game, when we were talking about the Chiefs, but there's a real shot this team goes 17-0. There is not, when I was looking at their schedule, there's 1, maybe 2 teams that are on there that scare me if I'm on the Chiefs. Let me read you their schedule here. Raiders on the road, Bucks at home, Broncos at home, Bills on the road, Panthers on the road, Raiders again at home, Chargers at home, in Cleveland, at home against the Texans, the Steelers on the road, the Broncos on the road to end the season. There are 1, maybe 2, possibly 3 games that I'm looking at and I'm saying, you know what? This is one that they are going to lose. This is one that I'm sitting down and I'm saying, oh, they are in real trouble on this. If there is going to be a team to go 17-0, why not the Chiefs? They have not shown the ability to lose, even against these really good teams in the beginning of their schedule. They might be able to do it. They're my number 4 winner this week. My number 4 loser are those San Francisco 49ers. Not only do they lose and lose badly to this team that's beat them in the last 2 times they've made the Super Bowl, but Brock Purdy's not looking too good. The running game had really struggled to get going in these last couple of weeks, and they're just continued to lose weapons. Brandon Ayuk out for the season. Ricky Pearsall, now wide receiver 1 with Juwan Jennings continuing to be banged up. This is a team that thrives on its offensive weapons. This is a team that prides itself on having that juggernaut super team, Avengers-level offense, and yet it continues to fall apart this season. And this is the life cycle of the Niners. It seems to happen every couple years. They just get hit with the injury bug. But this is a brutal year for that to happen because they need, and when I say need, I mean need to capitalize on this window because they're going to have to start to pay Brock Purdy soon or move on, and they need to make that decision next year or the year after that at the latest. So this is not one of those years that they can just accept defeat. Winner number 3, Jared Goff. Jared Goff, maybe not so quietly, but I think pretty quietly, has been racking up MVP level numbers. Jared Goff over here has put on a show. In the last 4 weeks, he has been nearly perfect with his completion percentage, a completion percentage of over 80%. We were talking all about the completion percentage of Jaden Daniels when he popped up out of nowhere, but Jared Goff has been doing that not just against the Bengals and the Cardinals, who have bad defenses, but against these teams with good defenses, teams like the Vikings that they just beat. They have been absolutely tearing it up through the air. Teams like the Cowboys, who may not have the greatest defense, but should be able to slow them down. The Seahawks, whose secondary is not very good, but still, Jared Goff has thrown himself into MVP conversations with these Lions, and he has them on a roll. Jared Goff is the number 3 winner of this week. Sticking with the quarterbacks here, the number 2 loser of the week, that's Justin Fields. I sat here all week long last week and I defended Justin Fields. I said, this is a dumb move. This is only going to make the team marginally better at best. And yet what I saw out there on Sunday night when Russell Wilson took the field was exactly what I was caveating against. It's Mike Tomlin. He makes the right decisions. You don't get to survive 18 years in the NFL without making a lot of these decisions. And all day, all night, on the call, when they were talking about the decision in the first half when Russell Wilson was struggling, they were saying, hey, we have no idea what the right decision is. This was a crapshoot for him, but they wanted to give him a shot, and I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. He went out there and he balled out. Now, I don't know if that's just because they played the Jets, and the Jets, for some reason, are just a flaming pile of trash right now. We'll get to them later. But Justin Fields, after what he did, getting them to 4-2, playing the best football of his career, 10 touchdowns to 1 interception, including his production on the ground, he was playing good football for this team. And then they turn their back, maybe not the first chance they get, but pretty early on, after a big win against a not-so-great team, and they say, all right, Russell, you're in. And the only reason that this looks different, the only reason this really hurts Justin Fields is because he's giving the ball to George Pickens. He's giving him those 50-50 balls. He's saying, screw it, George Pickens is down there somewhere, and he's tossing it 50 yards downfield when he's one-on-one. George Pickens is a special receiver that can make that, and I'm still on the side that if Justin Fields trusted George Pickens enough to go and do that, he would be a better fit for this offense than Russell Wilson. But the fact of the matter is that he wasn't trusting him enough. He wasn't doing that. And so they moved on to Russell Wilson, and seemingly that has been the right answer. We're always on overreactions the day after a big game like this, so I'm not going to stick my head all the way on the Russell Wilson train, but still, he played really good football, and it's not looking good for Justin Fields. He's the number 2 loser of the week. The number 2 winner of the week goes to a revenge game. Saquon Barkley travels to New York, a team that drafted him, the team that drafted him in the 2nd overall pick out of Penn State. He comes down to the Meadowlands and absolutely destroys the Giants. 176 yards rushing on 17 carries, an absolute performance. He only played 3 quarters. If this game was close, he was going to go for 250, possibly 300, and he's just that caliber of running back. You see the difference. He always was this good of a runner, but you see he was determined. He wanted to get this win. He was tired of being asked about the Giants. He was done with that organization. That organization is dead to him because of how they treated him, and it's a shame because he could have gone down in history as a Giant legend, and now he plays for the Eagles, and he's going to play for the Eagles for a long time, and he's going to be very successful there. He's very good at football, and I'm glad he gets to show his talents. I just wish it wasn't with the Eagles. He went off. He's our number 2 winner of the week. And our number 1 loser of the week, we're going to group this one together. It's just all of New York football. The city of New York right now is having a sports resurgence. The New York Liberty just won their first ever WNBA title. The Mets and the Yankees were both in the ALCS, were both in the MLB Championship Series, and the Yankees made it to the World Series. This is an awesome moment for New York sports right now, and yet the Jets and the Giants just continue to blunder everything that they have. The Giants have been awful for a reason. We know they've been bad. Daniel Jones is their quarterback, but getting to the Jets, I know I've been foreshadowing this a little bit, but they are just awful right now. They have made 2 straight panic moves. They've fired their head coach. They've looked much worse since Robert Saleh walked out the door. The defense has not been as together as they need to be. That strength that led them to a solid season last year without Aaron Rodgers, the one that let me believe this was a contending team with Aaron Rodgers. The defense has fallen flat on its face. Aaron Rodgers does not have that connection with his receivers. They go out and they get Devontae Adams. It does not help. Aaron Rodgers can't get the ball past the line of scrimmage. The offensive line that was much improved, supposedly, after getting Morgan Moses and Smith from the Cowboys and the Ravens, respectively, this was just a bad performance. This was not the Steelers winning. This was the Jets losing. Breece Hall had an amazing game, but it was all screens. It was check down, check down, check down. That was the only thing that worked. They couldn't push the ball down the field. Allen Lazard might be their best receiver on a team with Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams. Let that sink in. That is a ridiculous sentence to say right now, especially after what all of those guys did last season. And yet, Garrett Wilson seems allergic to catching the football. He has at least a drop a game, and they have all been pretty catastrophic. Devontae Adams had a drop on the first play of the game, and he was barely targeted. Now, that's probably because the Steelers were putting extra attention on him, but still, they could not get the ball to him, and that is a concern. The Jets have a lot of problems, and it is not looking good for the future of this team right now. They're our number one win. The New York sports, New York football specifically, is our number one loser. And our number one winner of the week, we actually do stay in New York here. It's Amari Cooper. He gets out of that situation with the Browns. He goes to a playbook with the Bills that he does not know, and he scores a touchdown on his first game. Not only does he join a team that now has the ability to call itself a contender in the Bills again, he goes from Deshaun Watson and now Dorian Thompson-Robinson / Jameis Winston to Josh Allen. And I've never seen a bigger I don't think you can do much of a bigger upgrade really ever in this sport. It was immediate upgrade. You see the chemistry start to form. He caught a touchdown in his first game, and he didn't even know the play. He's going to get better as the season progresses. The Bills and Amari Cooper are the number one winners of the week. But we're going to take a quick break here. Let me know what you think. Any winners or losers that I missed. When we come back, we do winners and losers for college football. Another week of chaos. The number one seed falls. A number one ranked team falls yet again. Craziness all across the AP Top 25. We'll talk about 5 winners, 5 losers coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. Please, Lord, give me a sign. Feel like I'm losing my mind. Please, Lord, give me a sign. I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. Look around, I feel like everybody is a fake. I make it. Everybody on the fake shit. Hoping one day I'll blow up in the basement. Statement. The top is so vacant. Shit that I think are amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing. Sold out show over 1,000 fans and that. Keep my way in the replay sounds. It ain't replaced. I'll put my sound. If I want that shit, then I'm clear right now. I'm losing it, the losing fit, the losing shit. I'm losing it. You choose to live, or choose to give. You choose to fight, the losing grip, and losing gift. I feel like I'm losing my mind. It's everybody in the world. Please, Lord, give me a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Monday, October 21st. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over our Week 7 in the NFL winners and losers. 5 winners, 5 losers. In this segment, we do the same thing, but for Week 8 of college football. 5 winners, 5 losers from a chaotic week in the world of college football. A crazy Saturday, but before we get into that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday, October 21st. But like I was saying, we are going to get into our winners and losers from a chaotic Week 8 in college football, starting, of course, with our losers. It's number 5. Our number 5 loser, it's the Tennessee Field Stormers. It's not Tennessee. Tennessee played a fine game. They beat Alabama. It was an ugly game. Neither of those teams seemed like they really wanted to win, but Tennessee wins. It was the Field Stormers after. They went on there. Not only did they storm the field as the number 11 team in the nation, which kind of felt a little weird to me in the first place, but they also did it against a team that, they weren't even, a lot of people predicted them to win. This wasn't a surprise win, but even when they stormed the field, it was half-hearted. They tried to get the goalposts out of the stadium, and security stopped them from getting the goalposts out of the stadium. That is just a failure of a field storming. You're either going to get the goalposts out of there, or you're not going to try. Really, I'm a little disappointed by Tennessee students. They got shown up by Vanderbilt and by themselves just a couple of years ago when they actually, stormed the field in full force. They're our number 5 loser of the week. Our number 5 winner of the week. Keep it nice and simple. It's Georgia. Georgia goes down to Texas. Absolutely destroys them. That defense was playing phenomenal football. Just about every level of that defense was awesome. The offense needs a little bit of work. It needs more consistency. Carson Beck turned the ball over a couple of times when they were driving, but ETN came in there, scored enough touchdowns, got what they needed out of it. They got a big win in Texas. That was huge for their program. Not only does it keep them in the running for the SEC, but it muddles up everything at the top. As we saw in this week's AP poll, it's just chaos. It's just a bunch of muddled nonsense at the top because everyone is beating each other. It's going to be a chaotic race to the finish, and I cannot wait to keep you updated on all of it. Our number 4 loser of the week, and maybe this is a little bit biased for me. Maybe it is. It's James Madison. James Madison is a team that came in, and again, this is probably me being a little biased here, and maybe they should have been number 5 here, but still, they lose a game, and they just looked awful out there. They were a team that still had outside hopes at making the college football playoffs if they were able to sweep the Sun Belt East. Instead, they go down, and now they basically have no shot, not only to win the Sun Belt East, but also to make the playoffs at all. It was just a sad, sorry performance, and they can and they need to do better there. They're the number 4 losers. Our number 4 winners, it's South Carolina. They came in, they surprised me. That was my surprise team of the week. South Carolina coming in to Oklahoma and just dismantling them. They come off of a week where they probably should have beaten Alabama. Instead, they choke it at the end. They don't convert the 2-point conversion. They get the onside kick, and then they can't get anything going. They miss a field goal earlier. They should have beaten Alabama. Then they show up to Oklahoma, a defense that I was very high on, and they just destroy them. Not only offensively, but their defense showed up too. 2 straight scores from their defense on back-to-back Oklahoma drives. Just shut them down in the first half. That was an awesome game. Everyone was together. That is how South Carolina can play. And I just talked about the muddling up of the SEC. They're not completely out of it. Now, they're not in it, but they're also not completely out of it yet. So anything can happen. Our number 3 loser of this week of college football, week 8, is the Big Ten depth. And I'll explain what I mean by that. The Big Ten was shaping up to be one of those conferences that, had these hopes to have 4 people show up to the college football to the college football playoffs. They still have Ohio State. They still have Oregon. They still have Penn State. But outside of those big 3, throw Indiana in there if you want. Outside of those big 3 in Indiana that's having an awesome season, the depth that was supposed to be there, namely USC, Michigan, Rutgers, Nebraska, these teams that had great starts to the season that made the Big Ten look like one of the best conferences in the sport, have really fallen off. Rutgers especially. Nebraska suffers a brutal loss to Indiana this week. We've seen Michigan just continue to lose these games, and USC as well just continue to lose these games. The power of the Big Ten and the SEC, as we'll get to later, is just dwindling. They're supposed to have this super majority. We have all the great schools over everyone else, and it's just not showing up on the field. And honestly, it's probably good for the sport. At number 3, our number 2 winner. So number 3 winner, I apologize, got my numbers mixed up there. It's the group of 5 contenders. We've had the top 5, if you've been paying attention to our rankings Tuesdays, we've had the same top 5 group of 5 for at least the past 4 weeks. Basically, past 3 weeks, we've had the same group of 5, top 5, led by Boise State, who had a bye week, so they couldn't move up. UNLV plays a good game, not their greatest game, but the service academies, Army and Navy, absolutely dominant. Going up against anybody, just dominating them so far. They've yet to face their toughest test, which is going to be Notre Dame later on this season. They both play them, but still, Washington State continues to play great football. These group of 5 contenders are pushing where there is a real possibility that 2 of them make the college football playoffs. And wouldn't that just be a fitting chaotic continuation for this chaotic season? Our number 2 loser, we kind of talked about a little bit, but it's Michigan. Michigan is our number 2 loser. They continue to just look awful. They're in their title defense mode, and yet they cannot beat anybody worth their salt. They're not even worthy to stand on the same field. They get blown out by Texas. Illinois destroys them. This is a team that does not have an offense. Its defense is solid, but it's not great. This team has no heart. It has no soul. It feels like it's just marching along to the beat. It doesn't feel like it has that kind of emotion it needs to go and contend with some of these big guys. And we're seeing it on the field week in and week out. Michigan just is not the same. And we knew that would happen, right? With losing their coach, losing a lot of their players, we knew that was going to happen after just winning the championship. But still, I didn't think it would be this bad. I thought they would at least continue to put up a fight in the Big Ten. Not a Big Ten championship level caliber, but still to be able to be in conversation with the top tier of the Big Ten, and yet they're just not. Michigan is the number 2 loser of this week. The number 2 winner of this week, sticking with the Big Ten, it's Curt Cignetti. Curt Cignetti comes over, goes to Indiana, and immediately turns that program around. Turns that program from one of the worst programs in the Big Ten to a team that is all but, if they beat every team other than Ohio State on their schedule, they are a lock for the college football playoff. And that is a big ask. It really is. But still, Indiana continuing to surprise people. Their best season ever right now. Only one other time they've been 7-0 in a season. But still, a lot of work to do. I'm sure they're not satisfied. Curt Cignetti's my number 2 winner of the week. Go get your money over there, coach. And our number 1 loser. Our number 1 loser of the week is the SEC dominance. I've kind of led up with this with a lot of our other topics that we've covered. You talk about a team, a conference that's supposed to be the best. It's supposed to be the SEC. It just means more, right? The SECs, they have all these top-tier talents, but Alabama has just crumbled without Nick Saban. And I'm not saying Kalen DeBoer has done a bad job. They beat Georgia. It's a big game. But still, losses to Vandy and losses to Tennessee in two losses in 3 weeks. This is their worst record already since 2007 when they lost 2 games in a row. This is not a good look for Bama, that dominance that they're supposed to have. Texas was supposed to be head and shoulders ahead of every single team in the country, and yet Georgia comes in and absolutely stomps them, makes them look like they hadn't played anybody real yet. Georgia, that next team in line, that team that was the number 1 ranked in the country to begin the season, loses to Alabama, almost loses to Kentucky, doesn't look their best against a team like Auburn, and the other teams that were ranked in the top 10. Tennessee has had its struggles losing to a team like Arkansas. Texas A&M starting to climb back up, but still they haven't been that level of team. Vandy has been a big surprise, but Ole Miss and Missouri both are falling off of cliffs. Alabama, Ole Miss, Missouri, they have been a huge disappointment for the SEC, and really that SEC dominance is going away. We look at a top 10 that was filled to the brim with SEC teams just a couple of weeks ago. Now my top 10, and I'll do a little spoiler for tomorrow, it only has 4 SEC teams in there, which only 4 is still pretty good. But when you look at it where it was a couple of weeks ago, we were looking at 6, 7 SEC teams up there, and now they've really fallen. So the SEC dominance is my number one loser of the week. And my number one winner, I've talked about in just about everything, it's chaos. This football season has been the most chaotic college football season that I can remember. No one separating from the pack. No one up top is safe. Anybody can beat anybody. It has been a joy to watch. Chaos is my winner, and I hope it continues to be the number one winner every single week because, my God, has this football season been unpredictable and so much fun to watch. We're going to take a quick break here, though. We're going to turn over our reflective minds to our predictive minds. We're going to turn over to the world of baseball. The World Series has been set. The New York Yankees, the number one seed out of the AL, take on the LA Dodgers, a battle of 2 MVPs, or prospective MVPs in Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge. We will talk about this juggernaut of a matchup and everything you need to know about it coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube. Absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube, absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Monday, October 21st. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over the winners and losers from both Week 7 in the NFL and Week 8 in college football. In this segment, we turn our attention to the world of baseball. The World Series has been set. The Fall Classic is right around the corner. We have the LA Dodgers coming in off of an absolutely dominant win against the Mets, taking on Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, and the New York Yankees. We will break down this series. We will give predictions and much more in just a second, but before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday, October 21st. But like I was saying, we are getting into baseball here. The Fall Classic is set. We have a World Series matchup. Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Mookie Betts, and the LA Dodgers take on the New York Yankees. This is going to be an awesome World Series. This is the first time in a very long time. There was a lot of, complaining heading into this playoffs that the teams with a bye continually get eliminated. That has gone away. The number one seed from both leagues have made it to the World Series, and they are playing like those number one seeds. I want to start off in New York, a city that we have talked a lot about and will continue to talk about later on in our show. I want to start with the New York Yankees. The Yankees have a big three. We talk about it constantly when we are talking about whether or not they're going to win a game. They have their big three comprised of course, Aaron Judge, the prospective AL MVP, a man who once again hit over 50 home runs. He is a home run hitting machine, and he is just starting to hit his power stride in the last couple of games of that series against the Guardians. You have Juan Soto, whose 3-run home run in the top of the 10th inning sent the Yankees to the World Series. Juan Soto, already a World Series champion at 24, not even 25 yet. He is, again, leading a team to the World Series, much like he did in 2019 with the Nationals. Except now he's a free agent, and we'll get into his free agency later on after the World Series, but still. And that final member, the most impactful member of these playoffs. When I say those two names, you might say, who? Who has been more impactful than Juan Soto and Aaron Judge? It's been Giancarlo Stanton. Stanton came in, has been not that good in New York since he got up there, to the chagrin of a lot of these people that gave up so much to get him. These fans have at times wanted him out. He strikes out a lot. He makes hard contact. He makes loud outs, but what he does undeniably when his bat makes contact with the ball is he tears covers off of it, and he has been elevating those balls. Those balls are leaving the yard. He once again was a powerhouse in every single series the Yankees have played in this postseason. Giancarlo Stanton has been the main reason they have advanced. Those big three, if they all continue to play like they were at the end, especially at the end of that series with the Guardians, they are near unstoppable. And that's not getting into their pitching. They have a great top 4 set. Heel at 4. You have Schmidt, you have Garrett Cole. You might even get you might even get some of your guys back that were missing earlier on in this postseason run. Clay Holmes has been awesome. Luke Weaver has been awesome in the bullpen. Clay Holmes, solid over there, but still, this is a Yankees bullpen, especially in the back end, that has been really good. Now, it's tough in a 7-game series, but still, you want to rely on those big three. You want to rely on those starting pitching arms, and they have the ability and the lineup to do that. Some timely hitting from some of the rest of the lineup could also help a little bit, but really what you're looking at is those big three. Now, getting over to the Dodgers, and everything I said about the Yankees can be said about those Dodgers, maybe even tenfold. They also have a big three, led by, of course, the prospective NL MVP, Shohei Ohtani. Shohei Ohtani, who has been amazing. Amazing doesn't even describe how good he's been. In his last 22 at-bats, since he hit that absolute monster of a home run almost out of Citi Field, no one has been able to stop him. Shohei Ohtani, 18 for his last 22. That is hitting over 800. Hitting over 800. He has a hit in over 80% of his at-bats. That is ridiculous. Shohei Ohtani is an alien when it comes to baseball, and he is just starting to hit his stride in the postseason. He started off slow. The Padres could have stopped this from taking over, but I don't think anybody can at this point. And behind him, you have Mookie Betts, a former MVP in Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts, who has also had his stretch of getting some absolute power, leading off almost every single game with the Padres with a home run. This is a dangerous lineup, and you're not even including Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman, who has not been in the lineup every single day, but still is a crazy impact player. And unlike the Yankees, they go deep in their lineup. Will Smith at catcher. You have guys all up and down the lineup that can stop, that are an issue. You can't just look at this big three and say, once we get past them, we'll be okay, like you can with the Yankees. This is a Dodgers team that is hitting on all cylinders. This is a Dodgers team that is going to be incredibly, incredibly hard to stop. This is going to be a fun series. The Dodgers have been dominating in their games that they won. The 4 games they won versus the Mets, their smallest margin of victory was 5 runs. That's not normal. Their offense has been just lighting it up, especially against the Mets, and we've seen the Yankees have some issues with giving up runs. Now, they have been able to keep pace. That series with the Guardians was so much fun to watch. They get out in the end in 5 games. But still, This is going to be a fun one. This is going to go down to the wire. It's just going to be, again, which one of these big threes are going to show up. And for my money, I think both of them are. But the way that these teams are playing right now, the consistency that these teams are playing with, I am leaning towards the Dodgers. Shohei Ohtani, when he is on, not even when he's off, is the best player in baseball. You can throw him up there in conversations for the best player of all time. He is going to win his first World Series this year. He absolutely deserved it. I didn't think it was going to happen until next year, and it still could wait, but still. The $700 million man is going to win the World Series. I think the Dodgers take it in 7 games in what, in my opinion, on paper at least, could go down as one of the best World Series ever. And I cannot wait to watch. Let me know what you think, though. I think Dodgers in 7. We'll keep tabs on this series as the games go on, but we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we turn our attention over to the WNBA. A championship series has ended. We have a new champion, the New York Liberty. We'll talk about that 5-game series, just an all-around incredible basketball series. We'll talk about that, how the final Game 5 went down, and much more. But before that, we'll be right back here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Monday, October 21st. If you are just tuning in, we just went over the preview for the World Series. The Fall Classic starts up later this week with the Dodgers taking on the New York Yankees. Should be a lot of fun. I have Dodgers in 7. In this segment, we turn our attention to a championship series that has just ended. The WNBA just had one of its most eye-opening seasons and awesome finals. Just as basketball fans, it was an awesome finals. All 5 games were competitive. 2 went to overtime. 1 ended on a half-court buzzer beater. So much fun. We'll talk about that series in just a second, but before we do, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those 2 things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday, October 21st. But like I was saying, we are going to get into the WNBA Finals. The New York Liberty secure their first ever title. An awesome season by the Liberty where they earned the number 1 seed, only lost 7 games overall in that series, 33-7 overall on the season. A huge win for that team that was stacked. It really was. This was just an awesome basketball series. You had everything you could possibly want. You had massive comebacks, overtimes, buzzer beaters, anything you could ask for in just a 5-game series. That was awesome. I wish it went 7, honestly. I also wish they didn't schedule it the way they did, going up against football, going up against the MLB playoffs, going up against college football, but it's tough. I understand. I just wish they wouldn't have scheduled 2 of these games, and including the final Game 5, the do-or-die Game 5 against Sunday Night Football on a Sunday. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But getting past that, this series was awesome. Like I said, Game 1, we saw the Lynx come back from 18 points down, force overtime, fall just short. Brianna Stewart played incredible all season long, and all series long, and of course Sabrina Ionescu, who hit the winning Game 3 on a buzzer beater from half court. One of the most clutch shots, not just in the WNBA history, but in NBA history, to win a finals game like that. All three of the New York Liberty's wins came either on that buzzer beater or in overtime. So this was a series that they clinched by the hair on their chins. This was this was just a really close series through and through. The only blowout games, there was one of them in Game 2 where we saw the Minnesota Lynx just not let the Liberty show up in this one. Or excuse me, the other way around. The Liberty not let the Lynx show up. The Minnesota Lynx were able to take Game 1. This was, again, probably one of the better series just in basketball over the course of the last 10 seasons or so. It was a lot of fun to watch. Now, overall, the WNBA did end up losing some money here, which sucks. They lost $42 million on the season, but I think this was a win for their season, for their future, right? You got a lot more eyes on the sport, a lot more eyes on the product, and people were able to see, hey, this is not just like a secondary product. There's some really, really good basketball players here. And I think this is good for the future. Now, for losing $42 million is not very good, but they have yet to make money yet in the history of their organization, and I think that changes soon. With the amount of talent that's coming in from college basketball, the explosion of it over there in women's college hoops, as well as the explosion of, just the WNBA in general. With the way this season ended and the way the amount of momentum this season had, I think it's looking up. They just need to work on their scheduling a little bit. But a lot of good coming out of this series, of this season, and I can't wait to see what happens next year in the WNBA. The Liberty secure their first WNBA title, a huge moment for New York, as New York sports is in the spotlight right now. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we have 2 Monday Night Football games, not just 1, 2. We have a doubleheader tonight. We'll break down both of them and more coming up next here on Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. Welcome back to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Monday, October 21st. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over the WNBA Finals. In this segment, we turn our attention to the Monday Night Football doubleheader. But before we do that, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you are on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you want to talk about, go and throw that in the comment. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. For instance, Andre brings up that Sengun just got $185 million from the Rockets. I'm holding off on the NBA because the NBA season kicks off tomorrow, and we're going to do a full preview of that after we do our rankings and stuff. So tomorrow we'll do our rankings. We'll go over all the contracts that just took place today and an NBA season preview tomorrow. So we'll talk more about the Rockets giving out contracts to Sengun and Jalen Green. Wizards giving out contracts to Corey Kispert and much more later on tomorrow. But thank you, Andre, for that. I hadn't seen that yet. But in this segment, like I was saying, we are going to preview our Monday Night Football doubleheader. Final segment of the show, we have two games. Both of these, I think, should be entertaining. Entertaining for different reasons, but they both should be entertaining. In one game, we have a battle of two teams that are maybe exact opposites in the way that they run a football team. And the other one, you get two solid football teams going up against each other that should end up in a good football game. We'll start off with that one, as Baltimore, the first game of the evening, travels down to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. The Ravens come in after winning a bunch of games in a row. Derrick Henry continues to dominate. We have a team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that are coming in off of a 51-point effort against the Saints. A Saints defense that is not very good, but the Bucs defense coming off of not a great game themselves. This is going to be a high-scoring affair. When we look at it either way you can, it's going to be a high-scoring affair. The Bucs like to pass the ball. The Baltimore secondary, not the best. The Ravens like to run the ball. And really, whenever the Ravens like to run the ball, they'll get it done. It doesn't help that Vita Vea, questionable. I think he's active tonight, but still questionable. Not the greatest look for them. You have the Bucs defense that also just is not very good. Lots of weaknesses defensively that these teams can exploit. I expect this to be a high-scoring game. Lamar Jackson has been continually playing better football as the season goes on. We saw the Ravens really start slow. The question of whether this game will be close is what Bucs team we get. Do we get the Bucs team that was shut down by the Broncos, or do we get the Bucs team that, for at least most of the game, put up a really good performance against the Saints? Now, if they do the exact same thing that they did against the Saints playing against this Ravens team, they're going to get boat raced, because you can't turn the ball over that many times and expect to win by 20 like they did against the Saints. That's just not going to be something that you can expect realistically to get you into the win column in most games. The Ravens are favored by 3.5 in this one. It should be a lot of fun in this one. I am very excited for this game tonight. Again, very high scoring, I think this one is, but I think the Ravens are just a more consistent, better team, and when push comes to shove, I'm riding with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson as opposed to the inconsistency that is that Bucs team and Baker Mayfield. I'm going with Baltimore to win 34-29. And then we get an interesting one. The Los Angeles Chargers travel to Arizona to take on the Cardinals. This game is one of those that I could look at about 100 different ways and come out with about 100 different answers for how this game is going to go. You come on with the Chargers, a team that if they're able to get a lead, they can protect it. The way that defense has been playing, especially against lesser competition, is really, really good. You get a team that has one of the best run games in the league, and they also have a great backup plan in Justin Herbert. That's probably the best backup plan that you can have if your offense just is not working. J.K. Dobbins having a bounce back season. You do lose Gus Edwards, but he hadn't been able to do much. You still have Vidal, the rookie, to back up J.K. Dobbins if anything is to happen there. The Chargers, if they get a lead, will not relinquish it in this game. They will run the ball down your throats, and Arizona's defense is not very good. They will be able to score on Arizona. That's not something I'm worried about. Where the 100 different possibilities come from the enigma that is the Arizona Cardinals offense. On paper, awesome. About every other week, awesome. But then you get to their off weeks where they cannot get 100 yards total. You get to their off weeks where they can't get anything going on the ground, despite the dual threat quarterback in Kyler Murray and a really good running back in James Conner. They can't get anything going through the air, despite awesome rookie Marvin Harrison Jr. and, the cavalcade of other options that they have through the air. They're just not able to get it going some weeks. So I don't know what Arizona Cardinals team we're going to get. This Chargers defense, while not an elite unit, is not a pushover by any stretch of the imagination. This unit is a good unit. If you give them a lead and they feel comfortable, they can and will lock you down. Am I going to sit here and say, oh, they're 100% going to lock you down? No way. Not a shot. But still, we take a look at the way that the Chargers are. We take a look at the way the Cardinals are, and I think the Cardinals are due for one of their good offensive days. This game, I think, is going to come down to a field goal, and neither of these teams have the greatest special teams, but still, I think this game is going to be very close. The Chargers are favored by 2 on the road. I'm inclined to lean towards the Cardinals just a little bit. I think their offense is going to have one of their good days. Maybe that's me just being high on the Cardinals here. I don't think that Chargers defense is anything that can shut them down just point blank, and I think Kyler Murray is going to have one of his good games, or at least James Conner will. These are both teams that can be scored on. Both of these games have the ability to be very high scoring. I'm taking the Arizona Cardinals to win a nail biter, 23-24. But let me know what you think of these two games. I'd love to hear your thoughts on anything that's happening tonight. Tomorrow, make sure you tune in. Not only is it our Rankings Tuesday, but we also have the preview of the NBA season. We'll talk about all the contracts that were given out. We'll do a playoff prediction and, of course, a NBA championship prediction as well. So make sure you tune in tomorrow for all of that and more. You have been listening to Sports by GSMC Podcast Network. I've been your host, Jeremy Lapidus. You all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you same time, same place tomorrow. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Let's go. I feel like it's gonna be a good day. I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit it yet, damn it.